I have joining me on the line this morning, and he's been on the air a couple of times on this morning show, but he's back this morning to talk about the importance of getting out to vote, and that is the Green Party candidate for governor of New York State, Howie Hawkins. Howie, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us again.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Well, Howie, so, people that have tuned into the morning show regularly, they pretty much know what your platform is, what you stand for. You've been on Democracy Now! You've certainly been on this air here. The Lieutenant Governor has been on as well. So, candidate for Lieutenant Governor, Green Party as well, Brian Jones. Tell us, just talk about the importance of getting out to vote and why, one may consider voting not for the traditional way that they have it voted all of this time. Not to necessarily tell them who to vote for, but why they may want to make a change.
Well, there are a whole bunch of fights that are going to begin the day after the election that people are really concerned about. What's the minimum wage going to be? We're calling for $15 an hour. Cuomo maybe go to $10.10. That seems to be what the Democrats are willing to do. That's still a poverty wage, particularly down there in New York City. Is this state going to open itself up to fracking? Looks like Governor Cuomo hinted that he will, because that health impact analysis he's been waiting for, well, it's suddenly going to appear after the election before the end of the year. And he's got a lot of money from the oil and gas industry. So that's a fight. Public schools. He told the Daily News editorial board that he wants to break up the public monopoly of public schools. In other words, he wants to privatize them. He wants to encourage charters. He also said he wants to increase sanctions growing out of high-stakes testing for teachers, which there's supposedly a moratorium on. In the debate we had, he said, Common Core, who me? Like he had nothing to do with it. But in fact, he signed off for the state along with State Education Commissioner John King with the National Governors Association to get us into that. Health care, I've talked to people. People are afraid to get sick because they're going to go bankrupt because the health insurance you get in the private market is no good. And so we need a single-payer system. And then we didn't have real debates. If we had a system of full public campaign financing, when you opt in, you got to participate in a series of debates. And then somebody like Cuomo, who's funded by, $331 million, gave him $22 million. If he stayed out of these, officially sanctioned debates, it'd be pretty clear who he's, really speaking for. So we're in a campaign where the governor has 4 ballot lines, and people are arguing things like, vote for him on the working families line, even though he's attacked workers for the last 4 years, and somehow that's going to send him a message. I think the message is, we're affirming what you did, and I'm going to take you for granted. That's what Cuomo would think. Or the independence line. That doesn't make him independent of those 331 donors that gave him $22 million. And women's equality, where has he been on child care or paid family leave? Things that most other industrial countries have, and we don't, and he said nothing about. So, people should use their vote to vote for what they want, and that's the first salvo in the fights over these issues that are going to begin the day after the election. The next legislative session, the fracking decision may come before the end of the year. Very important vote. It's not like, I'm behind in the polls, but I'm at a record level for a third-party candidate. And the more votes we get, the more leverage we'll have in those fights.
I just want to let the listeners know, as I've said, that we've had you on a couple of times, and we do not want this to be a partisan in any way as far as toward the Green Party is concerned. I reached out to Michael McDermott of the Libertarian Party, and I know others on the morning show have reached out to other folks to see if we could get them on the air with us, but I had not heard back as of last night from Mr. McDermott. So going on, I want to circle back, Howie Hawkins, on this fracking issue. I travel throughout upstate New York from time to time when I'm visiting friends upstate New York. Many listeners do, some don't, and are not aware. If you don't drive through the state, you don't know the condition of the roads, of the bridges, and if you don't stop into a local diner to have lunch or something to eat, then you don't know really what's going on. I have seen in some areas, some depressed areas in upstate New York, and I can see how some landowners may want to go for the money that the fracking industry is saying. One of the criticisms that I had of the anti-fracking campaign was that they did not take this into account. At least I hadn't heard taking into account the really depressed situation upstate New York and communities outside of New York cities. Can you talk a little bit about the situation in other areas of the state in terms of the economics and infrastructure and jobs that are there or are not there?
Yeah, this used to be a manufacturing region, and we're all Rust Belt cities and small towns like Binghamton or Amsterdam or Utica, or all these towns in the southern tier like Elmira and Corning. So people used to have union jobs with, be 20 to 30 or more dollars an hour, are now working 10 or less in service jobs and retail jobs. So it's economically depressed. The poverty rates in the inner cities upstate are double the rates in New York City, for example. So it's very depressed. Now, the anti-fracking movement has the positive side. We want to go to clean energy. We have this study from the researchers at Cornell and Stanford that say if we commit to that over the next 15 years and build the system out, creates 4.5 million jobs, manufacturing and construction. Those are good middle-income jobs. In contrast, the fracking industry is an extractive industry. You want to know what New York will look like after it's fracked? Look at West Virginia. They've been sitting on the coal, but the wealth is not there with the people in West Virginia. It's with the coal companies. It's an exploitive industry, and it undermines what we got up here for industry, which is farms, vineyards, and tourism and hunting and fishing. And then you talk about the homeowners. People who have leases have trouble getting mortgages because the banks are afraid the property be devalued by fracking. And they start fracking your property. Who's going to want to buy that piece of land? So it's not good for the homeowners. I mean, the people that still want it are hoping to cash in and get out of Dodge. That's not good for upstate. That might be good for a few people that benefit, but, people are trying to get out of their leases, and the oil companies and the gas companies are saying, well, the clock stopped when the state wanted a moratorium, so your 5-year, agreement is paused until they start fracking. That's got a lot of homeowners upset, and the opinion has been shifting. At first, people thought, oh, free money. But as they learn more about it, they're turning their opinion. So the majority of people up here are against fracking.
All right. Well, Howie Hawkins, as we wind things up, I know you're busy. You've been crisscrossing the state and trying to get your message out. A final time for us here at WBAI, before election, that is. Just tell people what you want to tell them and the importance of getting out and voting tomorrow in this midterm elections and not sitting home, not staying back until the big election, the high-profile election of 2016.
Well, I'd argue this is a very high-profile election. What direction is New York going to go? Are we going to allow the current governor, Governor Cuomo, to attack our public schools and teachers? Are we going to continue with the 5th austerity budget in a row? His budget director has already told the agencies, don't look for any increase. Meanwhile, he's giving tax cuts to the rich. His economic development program sounds like the old Republican George Pataki. Casinos and tax breaks, tax-free zones. It's a very important election, and you got to use your vote to vote for what you want, and then politics is a process. The election is just one event in that process, so don't waste your vote by voting for somebody you oppose on some other line thinking it's going to send them some kind of message that, he'll just use that to call it a mandate for what he plans to do. So Vote your values.
Vote your values. Well, Howie Hawkins, I appreciate you taking time and coming on again on this morning's show with us. We wish you all the best tomorrow, and I'm sure we'll be speaking to you again soon.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thanks, Howie Hawkins, Green Party candidate for the governor of the state of New York. It's 7:46 here in New York City at 99.5 FM WBAI.